Hello everyone and welcome. Today, I'm going to show you that anyone really can paint a mandala. I am going to take you step by step through the process, and by the end of this video, you'll have your very own mandala too. Let's get started. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be painting on this 3-inch art stone. That just means it measures from left to right in any direction 3 inches. The painting surface on the top that we'll be painting is almost a little bit of a dome, so it's a little bit bigger than 3 inches. So whatever surface you're picking for today, just make sure it's at least 3.5 inches. Now, if you want to make your own art stone, I've got plenty of videos on that down below. We can go over that in those videos. All right, now before we get started, I know you're going to be noticing this little turntable that I have under my rock. Y'all, this is just a little turntable or a Lazy Susan that's designed for decorating cookies, I believe. Anyway, it was a pack of 3 or 4 of them and I bought it. I just double up some tape and I stick an old lid. It's from my kitchen, maybe some old plastic containers, and that makes it a little bit bigger. I've been using these this way forever and it is what it is, but it does make life a little bit easier. It's just not necessary, so you don't have to have one. You can turn it. Just be very, very careful that you don't smear paint as you're turning your rock round and round. All right, so let's get out some paint. The first thing we need to do is we need to give the whole entire stone a base paint. I'm going to be painting it black today because I think black is like one of the best colors for a background to mandalas. It makes those colors pop, and I just love black, but you really can use any color you want. Just make sure you give it at least 2 coats on the front and back. Now, I just did a full beginner's basic video on base painting rocks. It is going to cover everything you ever needed to know about base painting a rock. I'll leave that video down below with a whole bunch of beginner's basics. So if I don't cover something in this video, you're likely going to find it down there in those. I totally recommend you go watch that base painting video. There is so much going on in that video that will help you all along the way, things I wish I would have known in the beginning. But for the sake of today and getting a full, complete step-by-step guide, I'm going to tell you quickly what I did here. I squirted out a little of that black base paint onto the stone. I got my 1-inch flat paintbrush with super soft bristles, and I gave it 1 good coat of black paint on the top. The top is the part we'll be painting. Now, I let that dry at least an hour, more like 3, and then I flipped it over and I gave the back of the stone 2 coats of the same black paint. When that was dry, I flipped it back over and I gave the front of this stone 1 final base coat. Now, I let my stones dry for several days because I find that's really, really helpful, but I'm going to recommend you wait at least 3, at least 2. I know you're eager to get started. That's why I recommend doing a whole bunch of these stones at one time so they're always ready for you. I keep a pretty good stash of already painted stones on my art desk, so I'm going to go ahead and grab one of mine that's already cured. It's been up here a long time, you can tell by the dust, and I'm going to use that in today's video. All right, now it's time to put some guidelines on this stone. It's starting to get exciting. Now, guidelines are just a series of lines and circles that help keep our mandala good and symmetrical. So I designed a DIY stencil. It's just a digital download. You can get yours today. It makes it super easy to get these lines on your stone without all the measuring. So I have a whole video on how to make this little DIY stencil, but y'all, it is so easy. Seriously, it's a digital download, so you can download it right now. You cut it out and then you can use like a little awl to poke holes in it. Or I recently found this Japanese hole press, I think it's called, and it makes these perfect little circles in it. Y'all, I've been using the same stencil forever. I've only had to print mine out once. All right, so I'm getting out my watercolor pencil and let me show you how I get my guidelines on my stone. The very first thing I do is take my watercolor pencil and I mark the center of the stone. Now, this art stone is already marked in the center, so it's super easy. I line the center hole of my stencil up with that center marker of the stone. I get it where I think it's just good and perfectly center, and I put 1 finger in the middle and I firmly grasp it. And then I use my thumb to kind of just smooth that stencil down. And then I'll use these little holes inside of the stencil to replace those lines. Once I have all of those lines there, I remove the stencil, and then it's almost just a game of connect the dots. This is the fun part. So now I've got out my compass and I put the pointy in just right in the center of the stone. I line up the watercolor pencil with that first line there. And then what I'm gonna do is just give this rock a little spin. When I get back to the starting position, I won't lift up the pointy end. I just stretch that pencil to the next line, give it another quick turn, and then repeat. To me, this is probably the funnest part of it all. And you don't have to measure anything because the stencil already did it for you, so you just get to have fun spinning circles. All right, now that we have our rings on there, all we have to do now is put our line segments on there. Those are just the straight lines that go across the stone, almost like if you were cutting a pie. Now, I like to use a little flexible ruler because it likes to hug the stone. If you use a good hard ruler, it would really be like a game of teeter-totter or something like that, and that's no fun. So get yourself a good little flexible ruler. It doesn't even have to be a ruler. It could be a piece of cardstock or anything with a good flat edge that's flexible. Now, I hold mine across the stone and I line them up with all of those marks we made. It goes through a mark on either side and it goes through that center. I use a finger to hold down the flexible ruler. I put one finger on one mark, one finger on the center, and my thumb I put down on the bottom. I almost never move my fingers at that point. I just kind of spin it round and round and make those lines. Now, it's worth mentioning that when you're making lines with this watercolor pencil, use as little force as you can. You don't want to use really heavy strokes. Like you don't want to, dig that pencil in and make really dark lines. It's going to make them hard to get off at the end. I just put as little pressure as possible on the pencil. You just need to barely see these lines. It's going to be just fine, and it's going to make it so much easier to get off in the end. And just like that, we're completely finished with the guidelines and we're ready to paint. Now, if you messed up on your guidelines, don't forget that you can take just a wet cotton swab and you can wipe this watercolor pencil off so easily. That's why I like to use the watercolor pencil. Look how easily these lines come off. Y'all, I just took this cotton swab and I dipped it into my water and dabbed it out a little on my napkin, and they just wipe right off. I love these watercolor pencils. When we're completely done with our mandala, it is going to be so easy to get these lines off. You guys are going to love it. I picked out 3 different colors for today's tutorial. I picked my favorite champagne gold, I picked purple pizzazz, and Bahama blue. Y'all, just 3 colors. We're going to keep this super simple, but it's going to give us a great big wow at the end. I just love easy wows. Now, I picked out Deco Art's Americana and Deco Art Dazzling Metallics because typically when you get a new bottle of this and you open it up, it is absolutely already perfect for dotting. You don't have to do anything to it. So that's going to make it easy for beginners. I'm going to go ahead and add some of this champagne gold to my paint palette. I'm going to put enough in there that it's about halfway full. I've picked out an 8mm tool to do our very first dot with. I'm so excited to get started. Now, mm just stands for millimeters. All of my tools are measured that way. I just did a whole video on these dotting tools. You're welcome to check it out. I'll always leave the tool that I'm using down here in the right-hand corner, and I'll leave the paint that I'm using over here in the bottom left-hand corner. That way, I'm hoping it'll make it easy for you to follow along. All right, so here's the hard part. We have to take this little dotting tool, we have to dip it in that paint, and then we have to put a dot in the center of this stone. Not a little to the left or a little to the right or a hair up or a hair down. Sure, it doesn't have to be perfect, but this first dot is pretty important, y'all. And I'm going to tell you, no matter how long I've been painting, I always mess it up. I think I can count on one hand how many times I got it right. So I've got a little trick and I want to share it with you. Y'all, I just get out my compass again. I put the pointy side in the very center of my tool, and I put the pencil on the outside edge of the tool, and then I don't move it anymore. I transfer it over to my rock. I make a little circle, and I promise you that circle is so much easier to hit than trying to center it inside that big circle. All right, it is finally time to dip this dotting rod into the paint and get started. Just dip it in there just a little bit. You don't have to have a ton of paint. You can always get more, but you can't take it back. Now, try to hold that dotting rod as upright as you can and aim for that new center circle that we gave. Go ahead and go back and forth between your paint until you fill in that center circle. Do you see the paint just squishing out from underneath that dotting rod, and it's all the way over those lines? I know now I've got a pretty good centered circle to start my mandala. We're ready to go, y'all. Okay, I'm ready to pick out a different dotting tool, but I figured I'd show you really quick how I clean my dotting tools between dots. I keep this little ceramic dish on this napkin next to me at all times, y'all. It is full of water and it has inside a little paint puck that a really good friend of mine sent me, and I love it. You just take your dotting tool and you just stick it in there and tap, tap, tap and wipe it on that paint puck, and you've got it. All the paint is gone. I'll just take an old napkin and I'll wipe the water off, stick my tool back in my cup, and get the next one. All right, so I want to use my guidelines and I want to put a dot in each of the sections next to that center dot. So I go through my dotting tools until I find one that I think will fit, and I go with it. Now this tool is a dotting stylus, and it's got a metal ball tip on the end of it, so it's a little bit more lenient about whether you hold your tool straight up and down or not. You can get away with just a little incline to make it more comfortable for yourself. I love using these little dotting stylus. As you're placing each dot, just go really, really, really slow until you get the hang of it. As soon as that paint kisses the surface of your rock, it's like you have a little insight as to like which way it's gonna go, how far it's gonna spread. And if you go really, really slow, you can shift a tiny bit to the left or the right, and you can stop if it looks like it's going to be too big. You can press harder if you think it's going to be too small. You have a lot of control if you just go super, super slow. A lot of the tutorials, including mine that you'll see online, they speed them up. It just makes it flow better. It's easier to follow along with. But I think sometimes what you miss out is how slow we actually do this. And don't worry so much about making mistakes, because we all make them. And if you do, like say, whoopsie, first of all, this guy's gonna laugh at me. And then we just clean it up. It's super simple, you guys. You just take a cotton swab. I like to get mine just a little bit damp sometimes. And then I just fix it. I hold it up to the side of the paint that I want to clean up. And then what I'm doing is I'm just twisting, rolling that cotton swab in my fingers, and I'm just pulling that paint up. I don't want to smear it across it. I'm just kind of rolling it up. And that right there is good enough. We can take our dotting tool back out and we can fix that dot and move on. No one ever has to know. Isn't that cool? Now let's get out that beautiful Bahama blue. I can't wait to use this color. I really love this one. So I'm going to pick out a dotting stylus just a tiny bit bigger to go in between each of those gold dots. I want every dot on one of those segment lines that's coming out from between the two gold dots, just like this. Now, just like before, I'm gonna go super slow. I'm really gonna let that paint show me where it's gonna go so that I can correct anything that I think is a little bit off. And I'm trying to just snuggle this new dot right on that segment line, but also get it just really close to center between those two dots in the row before. It is so much fun to do this, and it's also, it sounds dumb to say, but it's almost like exhilarating because you're trying to get really, really close, but you're trying really hard not to let the two paints touch, because once they touch, they'll just kind of go in together. It's kind of yucky. To avoid that completely, if you had the time, you could totally let that gold row dry, and then you could do the blue. It's so much more forgiving if you do that. But if you've ever seen one of my tutorials, y'all know I could never have the patience to do that. But boy, would it be beautiful if you did. It would be a surefire way not to let those paints run together. All right, let's move on to the next row, y'all. This is so good so far. We've got a really good start. All right, so I want to take this purple pizzazz and I want to put a bigger dot in between these two segment lines here. So I'll just grab a few of the dotting rods and then I just put them in here to see if they fit. This one looks pretty good. Now this set of dotting tools has 3 clear dotting rods in it. It's got a 5mm, a 4mm, and a 3mm. Just really pay attention to the tool icon here. I'll make sure you know what tool I'm using since they all kind of look the same on the screen. So let's take this one and we'll dip it in that purple pizzazz and we'll see if we can't center a great big dot in these segment lines. Let me show you what I mean. Really trying to center this dot in between those two segment lines, and I'm trying to get them as close to those blue dots as I can without touching them. It is so pretty together, these colors. So this ring that's going around that first ring in our guidelines, it's almost hitting center of that dot, so that's kind of giving me something to go by too. But just like with the dotting stylus, if you go really, really slow, you can almost move these dots just a little to the left or a little to the right or a little closer to those blue dots or a little further away. And it's so helpful. You just have to slow down and really practice with it. And I think that if you do this over and over again, you'll see what I'm talking about. I truly believe that if you practice this over and over again, you will really start to get a feel for things. And sometimes that's really hard to explain. So just be patient, keep practicing, and you will totally be painting mandalas in no time. I bet even this one is going to look so super fantastic to you. I remember my first mandala. I thought it was the prettiest thing anyone had ever painted in the world. I'm truly hoping that you're going to love your first mandala as much as I loved mine. I'm telling you, there is just something so cool when you get to the end of that and you look at it and you're like, whoa, I did that. You're going to be so excited. I need you to remember, no matter what, it's not perfect. It's art. All right, now I'll be quiet for just a little bit and let you guys paint. Don't forget, I'm putting the paint down in the left-hand corner and I'm putting the tool size over on the right-hand corner. Make sure you switch your tools with me. Oh, I think we're off to such a good start. Aren't these colors beautiful together? You can pick any 3 colors you like and just take your new colors and replace the ones I used with them, and you'll still have a beautiful mandala in all of your favorite colors. Okay, I want to take a larger dotting tool now and see if I can't get a big gold dot right between these 2 segment lines. Now, bigger dots get a little bit more tricky because this dotting rod has a flat edge that we're using to make that dot with. Sometimes little air bubbles can get stuck in there, so when you put your dotting tool down on the surface, go super, super slow. That way, if there's a little air bubble in there, you can stop real quick and make sure it pops, because if you just go really fast and you press it down really fast, that bubble might shoot out the side and make a big mess. And if that happens, just like I showed you before, get out that cotton swab, wipe it up, and try again. You see how that left that little like crevice there? That's just where a little bubble was. I'll just go ahead and fill it back in with a second dot. I'm just doing everything super slow so that I can make sure to correct it as I go. And I see lots of tiny little air bubbles in this big paint. I'm going to show you how to fix that in just a second. Okay, do you see all those tiny little dark spots in these big gold dots? Those are air bubbles, and I want to pop them. Now, I've seen most people, they'll take out like a little needle or an awl, and they'll just pop them. They'll just poke them and pop them. Y'all, for some reason, this never really works for me. It's like it just pushes them down deep, and then they pop right back to the surface, and it just drives me crazy. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Anyway, I use my artist torch. This is just a butane torch. I'll pull the trigger and I just swipe it over that paint as fast as possible. You have to be super careful because if you hold this torch to your paint, you can burn it. And you don't want to burn your pretty dots, you guys. So just super fast. Let me show you how I do it. And then you'll see how fast it pops all of these bubbles. Did you see how fast that was? Now look what happened when I did it. It's so much easier for me. You just have to be really, 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 really careful, okay? Go ahead and read all of the documentation that comes with your artist torch and your paint. Make sure you know all of the risks and you know what safety precautions you should take and if you should use this method or not. I'm gonna say use this one at your own risk. All right, I wanna get that Bahama blue back out and put some more of that color in our mandala. All right, I'm going to take this 3mm tool, and just like before, I'm going to try to put a Bahama blue dot right on that segment line. I'm going to snuggle it right in between those 2 big gold dots without touching them. And I think it's going to be so pretty. All right, now I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to let y'all follow the tutorial all on your own. Don't forget to notice when I change tool sizes down there in that bottom right-hand corner. All right, guys, good luck. Oh, y'all, this is looking so pretty. I cannot wait to see how you're doing. Don't forget that here on YouTube, I have a community page and you can go and post photos of the work that you're doing. If you've been inspired by one of my tutorials, I am just dying to see it. That really does make my day. I hope you guys post lots of photos of how this is going for you. Okay, now before we continue, I want to let this completely dry. So I'm taking a paint palette, an empty one, turning it upside down and putting it over my paint, and then I'll put something heavy on top. That way my paint doesn't dry out while I'm gone having lunch or doing whatever to let my paint dry. I'll take a quick photo of all of this for my channel members so they can get a sneak peek and they're behind the scenes, and then we'll come back to put top dots on it. All right, and through the magic of editing, it is dry enough for me to continue. I cannot wait to get these top dots on here so that we can really get a feel for what the final look is going to be like. But before I get started, I really want to go ahead and move those guidelines because I'm completely done using them. So I've gotten out a cotton swab, I've dipped it in my water, and then on that little napkin I keep beside me, I just kind of dab. I don't want it extremely wet, but it does need to be wet enough to remove these guidelines. And then what I do is just gently wipe over the guidelines. They come off so easy. I'm using minimal force. Now, I didn't leave these dots to dry overnight, so I get a little bit nervous wiping over them. The best scenario you can do is let this dry overnight and then continue. But if you're impatient like me, just be super gentle. Oh, I love getting the first look of it after we remove those guidelines. It's just so beautiful with that deep dark black now. Okay, I am ready to top dot. All that is exactly what it sounds like. I'm gonna put a dot right on top of a dot. I'm gonna start in the center, so I've picked a dotting tool that's just a couple of sizes smaller than the one we used for the gold dot. So this Bahama Blue is gonna be a 6mm tool. Whereas if you'll remember, that gold dot was an 8mm tool. So you just pick a dotting tool that's a little bit smaller than the one you used before. Now I want to add a gold dot on top of these purple dots. So the first dot was a 5mm and I picked out a 4mm, but you can see that that made this really challenging. Like there's not a whole lot of room for error. So as a beginner, I'll suggest that you go ahead and use a 3mm tool. It's going to make it a little bit easier for you. Unless you like a challenge, then by all means use this 4mm. But it was really tough to get that good and centered in there so that you could see that purple all the way around the outside. All right, I've been really excited to add a big purple dot to these giant gold dots. I think it is going to look so pretty in the end. I can't wait to see what it's going to look like. Just do your best to center it. You have to remember, no one is going to notice on this part if one's a little left or a little right or a little up or a little down. Seriously, it is not that big a deal. Have fun with it. Don't stress yourself out. Just enjoy the process. See, that one I got a little to the right. So now I come back and I just dot again and I squeezed it over a little to the left. It's pretty forgiving. And no one's going to notice the little mistakes, only you. You're going to be your worst critic. In the end, everyone's going to notice the great big picture. No one's looking at the little details like you are, so just remember that. All right, since I added those purple dots to the gold, I think it's only fair that I add some gold dots to these purple dots. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is looking so pretty, but I realized I forgot to add a little purple dot in that black space. Oh, I wanted to do that before I put wet paint between that area and myself. Now, you can wait for this to dry and come back and do this, but I'm going to show you how I do it without smearing the paint. I take my left hand and I use it to cradle my right hand. It's almost like I'm saying, no, don't go any further. You're going to smear that paint. So I leave my left hand here and then I dip in the paint and I come back to make those dots. My left hand is just holding me back so that I don't lay my hand in that wet paint. I hope that makes sense. This is also a really great tip if you find that your hand is a little shaky for whatever reason. You can use your other hand to steady it just a little bit. I know it really, really helps me on those mornings I have too much coffee. Oh my gosh, I love it so far, you guys, but I really want one more dot in that center. I'm gonna have to let it dry again, doggone it. And let's do one more dot, you guys. Okay, I can't help but think that I want that gold dot in the center again. I really like that in the beginning. So I am gonna put a big gold dot right here in the middle and see if I like it. Oh man, now that I'm looking at it, I think maybe I made the wrong color choice. Don't you think that purple pizzazz would be, I mean, even its name is center worthy. That's okay. I'm gonna wipe this gold off real quick and I'm gonna put a purple pizzazz dot in the middle. If you like the gold, keep the gold. That's just fine. This is your mandala and you get to make all of the rules. Let me wipe this up real good and then we are almost done. Oh, I like that so much, but now I'm feeling like I need a gold dot on the purple. You guys, I have this issue. You'll soon find if you follow my tutorials, I almost never know when to stop. So I'm gonna add one more top dot here and hopefully call it done. Oh yes, for sure I am done. You guys, I love this so much. I can't wait for it to completely dry, maybe get some kind of shiny finish on there. This is going to be gorgeous. Now, I love to put art resin on all of my stones. I've got a full tutorial on it. So if you want to learn how to do that, watch that tutorial. It is a really good one. Now, I can't help but remember back though, I didn't start out with resin. I was a little too nervous for it, and I started out with varnish, so I'm gonna do that for you today. I've gotten out my Liquitex High Gloss Varnish, and I'm using the same paintbrush that I used for that base paint. Okay, before I put this varnish on here, of course I have to let this mandala dry. Now, I do two things. I let it dry for a few hours where I feel like I can gently touch the front of this without denting those dots. If I lay it down on the surface, it could very well smash those dots. So I hold it gently in my hand and then I use a couple of things. I will either use a fine line brush and sign the back, or I use a Posca paint marker. It's a fine tip. I'm leaving all of this down in the description, so if you want any of these supplies, you can find them. but I use this fine tip Posca marker to write on the back too. Anytime I make a stone in one of my YouTube tutorials, I always put this little Y and a T. It stands for YouTube, but the way I do it, it almost looks like Asian writing or something. I get a lot of questions about it, and I think that's great. Anyway, and then I put the number that goes along with it. This number you will see in the thumbnail of my video at the top right hand corner. That's for whoever buys it. They know what video to watch to go with it. Okay, now I don't want to lay this rock down and smush all my writing. I don't want to lay it on its front because I don't want to smush any of those dots that aren't fully cured. So I just lay it on the edge of something to where there's good airflow underneath where I know that signature is, and it's getting airflow across the top. Now I'm just going to let this dry for a few days even, and we'll be back to put some varnish on it. Now that it's good and dry, we want to protect that artwork for years to come. So we're going to use this liquid varnish, and it is so simple to use. I want to walk you through it step by step. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the directions, and we're going to take advice straight from Liquitex themselves. Okay, it says that we need to let our project dry for 72 hours to 2 weeks, depending on that thickness of paint. Okay, I did that. Now it says do not thin with water. Okay, I did not do that. So don't thin it with water, y'all. It specifically says not to. I'm not sure why you would. Anyway, apply 2 to 3 thin coats, allowing at least 3 hours between coats. Okay, that's what we're gonna do now. All I do is just add a little bit to the center of my stone, and I mean just a little bit. You don't want this running down the edges of your stone. You just want a little puddle there in the middle. If you're not confident to do that, that's okay. Go ahead and squirt a little bit out in one of your wells in your paint tray and just dip the brush and then cover this rock completely in a very thin layer of this varnish. You don't want too much, because what'll happen is that varnish, if it runs underneath your rock, it'll kind of pool up under there, and it's going to make the back of your rock look really weird. Okay, I'll let this layer dry, and then I'm going to repeat it 2 more times, letting it dry 3 hours in between coats. I'm also going to turn it over and do that on the back too. When I'm completely finished, I'll come back and we'll do a whole final reveal. Until then, I want to put a whole supply recap right here on the screen so you can remember everything that we used in this video, because I want you to make this mandala for yourself. Now, I've also listed everything down in the description, complete with links, so you can just click and purchase everything you need right there. Super simple. Now, let's see that final reveal. Oh my gosh, isn't this pretty, y'all? I cannot wait to see your mandalas. Really and truly, please post a copy. I'm dying to see it. You guys, I did do 3 coats of the varnish on the front, but I stopped on the back, and I only did 1 so that you could really see the difference. Now, I'll go back and I'll fix the back before I put this over in my eBay store to sell. But can you see the difference that the different layers make? So don't short that process. It really does make a big difference. I hope you enjoyed this beginner's tutorial and that it really explained things we often don't explain in our regular tutorials. Maybe this will give you the courage to follow some more. I have a whole playlist of beginner basics that are going to help you with making rocks and base paint and all sorts of things. I want you to watch all of those and be looking for more of my beginner-friendly tutorials. Until then, rock on!